Welcome to another episode of Art Imitates Life. We break down classic Black movies, albums, and shows and figure out how we can apply those lessons to our life. Today I'm here with my man Mike. What's up, bro?
What's going on, X? How you feeling?
I'm chilling.
That's good.
You know, we already just might as well just get right into it.
For sure.
Today we're going to talk about 2014 Forest Hill Drive by J. Cole.
Yep, J. Cole's best. J. Cole's best.
And really, would you be able to set the stage for this album for us?
Yeah, for sure. So this is, just a little bit of background for those that don't know. Obviously, J. Cole's a very famous rapper. I'm sure most of our listeners know who he is, but just a little background for those that don't know. So this is actually J. Cole's third album, 2014 Forest Hills Drive. It released in 2014. And the 2014 Forest Hills Drive is actually a reference to his childhood address. And it's also kind of lays as a backdrop for the story that he's telling in the album, kind of just laying out his entire just childhood upbringing and everything in his life story. So yeah, that's just a little bit of background to set the stage a little bit.
Yeah. And also to add on to it, he his first two albums, even though they did a lot of critical acclaim, there was still that personal thing that he was trying to get over.
Mm-hmm.
And, the first album, everybody, did numbers just because he built the fan base off his mixtapes and everything. But there was still songs that, that weren't the warm up or Friday Night Lights that kind of took away from it.
Yeah, that first album definitely wasn't as beloved and received as well as people may have thought, because at the time J. Cole was viewed as like a savior or whatever. People exaggerate some things sometimes, but he was viewed as the next guy. So when that first album came out, it was like, okay, it's good. It's a good album. And then his sophomore album, a lot of it, that album's really split. It seems like a lot of people
split on it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. We'll have to have that conversation on another time, another episode. But yeah, that album's super split. There's a large fan base that absolutely loves that album, and then there's a large fan base that's like, it just didn't really work. But this album, this was the one for him.
I think the reason why I feel like that about Born Center's second album was because I saw that he beat it. At the end of the album, I'm like, he's about to really tap into it.
You.
I think I kind of had the foresight of he's going to turn up on this next one, because I see he beat a lot of those personal, internal battles. And I think that's why I like Born Center so much.
I get you. Yeah, I get it. I definitely get it. Yeah. Either way, let's go ahead and get into this album.
For sure. So, we're going to start with the singles like we did last time. And the first thing we're going to talk about is No Role Models.
Yep, No Role Models.
And what was the first thing when you heard the song? What was your first impression of it?
Okay, so I had mentioned before the episode that it was, a few songs that I definitely wanted to talk about. And No More Role Models is definitely one of them. Because truthfully, and I know this is kind of a weird way to start the episode, but this is the way you want to start. Honestly, I never was the biggest fan of this song.
Really?
And it's a good song. It's definitely a good song. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I never understood why it was this is his most streamed song, I think. And I never truly understood exactly why. It's a good song. And I think it was interesting that he used the hook from one of Project Pat's old songs.
Mm-hmm.
And that became one of J. Cole's most popular lines. But yeah, I kind of wanted to bounce it to you and kind of explain why you love this song so much. Because I know this is one of your favorites. This is one of people's favorite J. Cole songs.
Yeah.
And it just never hit me in the way that really the rest of the album did. So
I would say it's because it's I think that the title itself is No Role Models. People just out Hollywood, the people who we think we really want to look up to,
right.
the people we really want to admire. it's not who it really should be.
Gotcha.
And then also it was like, you know, he was writing this song while he was in Hollywood.
Right.
So he was like kind of like bump Hollywood. He's seen the cliche of everything.
I get you.
You know, wanting the real love. He's messing with people he's hesitant of messing with and things like that. So I think that was like, it was like the irony of it, of the whole song. That's why I've been with it a lot.
I feel you.
And I mean, would you be able to live in Hollywood?
No. Absolutely not. That is not a life that I want to live right now, which is kind of ironic because I want to go into the movie industry. So I'm kind of on the fence about everything related to that. But
what has you on the fence about it?
I mean, a lot of what he discusses in the song. And actually, I remember because I went to the concert for 2014 Forest Hills Drive. That was a Jiffy Lube Live in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of just telling the backstory on a few different songs, which, you know, you've been to Cold shows before. He really is engaging. He talks to the crowd a lot. And specifically during this song, he was talking about just, you know, women and men just really faking on that side.
Yeah.
You know, faking it to make it. And I just thought that was really interesting. But that's really the main thing. Like, it's just so many, seems like it's so many fake, just industry people, you know, relationships and stuff. That just rubs me the wrong way, truthfully.
Nah, I feel you. I feel like for me, it's a very cliche. I wouldn't want to be in Hollywood, but like you, I would still like the things that, like, you know, the film industry, media, music, of all that.
Right.
But like in the sense of like the lifestyle, I necessarily wouldn't be like so quick to run to. But the more so just the like overall personal gain for my career, I'll go out there for a few years. I mean, it's you know, you by the beach,
of course,
good weather. I ain't gonna be too mad at it.
I feel you on that.
Yeah. So then also another single we have, that's probably the most awkward one. Wet Dreams.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it had the whole plot twist at the end. They both were versions and stuff. But I think that song really was just showing like kids innocence. Like, yo, like don't rush into it.
Of course.
Like take your time. Just enjoy being a kid because, you know, all that stuff's gonna come eventually.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's really the main thing I just take from that song. It's not really a song I go back too much. It's just,
yeah.
You know.
It was a big radio hit though.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Like, I mean, the beat is knocking.
Yeah.
But I guess just the content. I'm like, how did this make it onto the radio? Like,
it's relatable.
I think
a lot of people just was like, people just reminisce like, dang, you know what I'm saying?
I feel you.
And then we talk about Apparently. That was another single, but it was like a sneaky single.
Yeah, that wasn't a typical J. Cole song.
Right.
But that's a song that really grew on me a lot after I saw it live. It just had so much energy to it. And you could feel the passion in his voice because, you know, J. Cole, he's a decent singer. He's not, you know, like an amazing singer. He can hold a melody.
Okay.
He can hold a melody.
He can hold a note.
That's all you really need to do. But you can feel like the passion in his voice. And that's why I like that song, really. That's really just the main thing. I just felt it. So.
No, I feel it. And then I feel like, you know, it's the story. You know, he's just saying how everything just lines up for him. Like he ain't even believe in himself, but all these things that are coming into fruition,
right?
It's happening for him, and he's able to be successful. So basically, he's saying like, God, you believe in me, type stuff. And like, have you ever had any moments where everything just lined up perfectly for you?
Perfectly, I won't say perfectly, but I will say my life post-graduation has lined up fairly well. And trust me, a couple years ago, I didn't know where I was going. So I gotta thank God for just really aligning my steps. Because realistically, I put myself in a lot of good positions, but a lot of stuff just really kind of fell onto me.
Yeah.
So I have to count my blessings on that. So I can definitely relate to the message that he was talking about in that song.
Yeah, I think it comes a lot with like manifesting, just aligning yourself with what you want in the future.
Right.
I think that was probably like the main thing for me. Like for you too. Shoot, 2020, I ain't know what was going on.
Man, listen.
Yeah, 2020 was a rough year.
Yeah, for everybody.
And,
for everybody.
Understatement.
Yeah.
But
sure.
It was still like you still had to grind, you still had to push, you still had to dream whatever you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, there were just moments where there was moments of, I saw spurts of like flashes of like my future. And it's just like, and it's like, okay, keep going. And then I feel like it's still going on today. It's like, yo, just keep hustling. And then like, I'm getting closer and closer to what I want to do.
Yeah, same here.
And it's like, okay, I'm making some movement.
Yep. Yeah, I agree completely. So, yeah, like I said, I definitely appreciate the message that he was discussing in that song. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's a good song. That's a really good single that he put out there.
Word. And then, the last single, we want to say that for the end because I think that's basically like the whole theme of the song.
Mm-hmm.
Love Yours. But we'll do that. But after that, we're going to tap into the B-sides real quick.
Okay.
Now we're about to get into the B-sides. And for our listeners, just figuring out what the B-sides are. It's not the singles, it's the deep cuts, the things that people really not necessarily hear on the radio, but more so the album and just creating the big picture for the album.
Right.
And the first one we talk about is January 28th.
Yep. January 28th, the intro song.
It sets the stage.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What do you think about the intro? Was there any like standout bars for you or like even like your first time listening to that album? Like, was it like, dang, like he's coming different?
Yeah. I really appreciated this song. The reason for that is that it showed J. Cole in his most confident, probably since his mixtape days. He was proclaiming king. He was proclaiming to be the best. He said, y'all ain't the God, I'm the God.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I see you. And man, you got to respect that.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a case. He definitely had a case at the time and he still does now. So that's immediately what stood out on that song. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I even like how he, did the January 28th play on to like, you ain't the guy. He's talking about Rakim. So it was like really like he was breaking it down. It might be Jersey Drake or Kendrick Lamar, but check the birth date. You ain't the God,
right?
Because they share the same birthday,
right.
and I was like, man, when I first heard that, that blew me away.
Yeah, he was going in on that one, definitely going in, and that's also one of my favorite beats on the album as well.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I knew the sample, but that's an amazing beat.
And probably like another standout bar to me was The Price for a Black Man Life. I checked the toe tag, not one.
0 in sight. Yeah.
I think that just, the value of human life, isn't really there for, people of African descent, Black people, because of, this dehumanization of us. And, he wrote this during the time of when like the Ferguson with Mike Brown and everything. So he really was tapping into it. He even mentions that at the end of the album, like, yo, they're still marching.
Right.
He's still going. So
yeah, and that's another thing I really appreciated about J. Cole is that he was down there in Ferguson marching on the front lines. And I believe this album had a documentary that came with it, correct?
I believe so. It was yeah.
Yeah. And I believe I think it was this one and his next album that he had a documentary. I mean, he was down there right on the front lines talking with the people,
Yeah.
Really help build that community. And you just have to appreciate any artist that does something like that because a lot of them don't.
Right.
A lot of them don't.
It was genuine. And he even, admits at times he feels like he's not doing enough. Mm-hmm. And he feels like he could do more, especially with the platform he has. So I think he still understands that, you know, he wants the best for people, but you know, there's still more that he could really tap into, and he has that self-awareness. So
yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with. You know, I feel like there's a lot more that I could be doing with that same type of work. But I do feel like I need to become more educated on a lot more of that stuff as well.
right.
Before I step out too far, you know, you got to know your limits, know your boundaries with stuff like that. So I do appreciate his honesty in those type of situations.
Right. Those who are most equipped serve others type of thing. So I think that's really what he views it, how he views it. I don't know him, so
right.
But from the perceptions of what he got.
Gotcha.
And then also another line for me was, you know, they only, you know, dribble with mics. Unless they hoop or they fiddle with mics.
Fiddle with mics,
yeah. And I think that line is it stood out to me because, you know, they're saying like the kind of ties in what we were just talking about. A lot of the people that we look up to are usually a basketball player or a rapper or a football player or whatever.
Right.
And I think that is true to an extent, but I feel like we can do all things type of thing.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't think it has to be a one-way street of just being a hooper or just being a rapper. Like, if you really tap into like our history, our ancestors, you look at Paul Robeson, attorney, singer, actor,
right,
football player,
right.
Not just anyone. He was nice at it too, you know?
Exactly.
So like when you really talk about what we're capable of and what we can do both. Even the girl who just won the spelling bee.
Oh my gosh, what's avant-garde? What's her name?
Yeah.
She does everything, man.
She a hooper. She can spell. She's like, I do this as part-time. So I think we shouldn't.
That's crazy.
We shouldn't limit ourselves. And, and I definitely get what he was saying, but I don't think people should limit themselves around that.
Yeah. And, you know, I actually took a little bit of a different perspective from that song. I just felt like he was saying that's what they view us as. And we're marginalized to think that that's all we have.
That's facts.
Because, you know, he says, we say the screens are light up with lights, cameras, and action, whatever like that, something like that. I'm not great with lines, but yeah, it felt like he was saying that's just all we're marginalized to believe. Conditioned to believe.
Yeah.
But that's not true, as you obviously just pointed out. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I took from that.
Yeah, the intro, I still pick up lines to this day where, you know, I was like maybe not hip to or just, you know, you just listening because you just enjoy it, but then you really take the time to listen to it. You're like, oh, I didn't catch this part. Right. So that was a big thing for me.
Gotcha.
And then another, you know, transition onto the other one, I think 03 Adolescence.
Yeah.
That was a really great story.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's a very relatable story. And that's one of the main things that people are always talking about with J. Cole. He's so relatable. Just in his personal, in his music. It just feels like he's a normal guy. And that's why so many people are attracted to his story, attracted to his character. So when it comes to a song like 03 Adolescence, you know, he's telling that story of when he was younger. You know, he's friends with, you know, young dude that's a drug dealer, whatever.
Right.
You know, out in the streets doing his thing. You know, he's flashing, whatever, you know, all that. You know, typical story, but he was saying how he wanted to be like that.
Yeah.
But as J. Cole always talks about, that's not him. That's not him. So, you know, kind of at the end, you know, he's talking about how can I get on, blah, blah, blah. And the dude looks at him crazy. He's like, you on my man's, I be look like you a clown. Like, why do you want that? Because you don't know the reason why I'm doing stuff like that.
Right.
Like, you know, my mom can barely afford anything, you know, this and that. You know, I want to be more like you, you know, hooping, you know, educated, all that. Like,
just living.
Yeah, just living your own life. Like, you don't have to be looking over your shoulder all the time, you know, being out in the streets or whatever. So I think that was such a relatable song.
And I think
that's incredible song, man.
And I think that even ties into like even the whole theme of the album, like the whole Hollywood thing, going to Hollywood, valuing things that you shouldn't value.
Right.
And I think that was what he was doing even as an adolescent. You know, he's like, he just wants to bling. He wants to look good, feel good type of thing, the flash.
Right.
And I think that even ties into, you know, the desire to go to Hollywood, to be around that energy. So
I agree.
Yeah, and we both know about the next song that we about to talk about, Fire Squad.
Fire Squad.
That's probably second favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely top 3 for me.
Because he goes very in depth with just his skill, just showing like he has the skill for this.
Right. Yeah, this was one of his best actual lyrical performances he's had. And at the time that this song came out, it caused a lot of controversy. Those lines discussing cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's cultural appropriation has always been around, but specifically during that time, it was really, really a hot topic.
Especially with the whole Iggy joint. I think like she caught most of the backlash out of everybody.
And she deserved it.
Yeah. No. I feel it. But I think just showing like, you know, that there's spaces for that, but that's not what it's coming from. That's not what it stems from.
Exactly.
I think, who was it? Russ. I was listening to an interview by Russ. He was like, he has the masses, but he's not able to tap into the culture like he wants to. And I think that really shows or like highlights what Cole was trying to depict when he was saying history repeats itself. That's just how it goes.
Right.
How they bite each other's flows and all that stuff. So, you know, with time, there's always that, you know, there's something that Black people have built up and they, you know, made their own wave type of thing.
Right.
And then it just gets...
They get snatched away.
Yeah. And
completely snatched away.
And they don't even get the credit for it. Whether it's rock and roll, hip hop, you know, well, hip hop we credited for, but it was just like, you know, the whole thing, like you talk about with Eminem, people were quick to be like, oh, you're the best. Boom, boom, boom.
Exactly.
But like, I mean, and realistically, bar for bar, Eminem is up there.
He's nice.
He's up there, but it's not like he's the GOAT. You know what I'm saying?
And there was people from outside of the culture
trying to tell us who.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
That's what it is. And I think that goes into the social structure versus the governance type of thing. And I think, shout out to Dr. Carr. I'll be listening to him. Professor from Howard. But basically like the social structure, who African people are to other people, and then who governance is who African people are to each other. And I think that's that balance right there. Like to us, we know the governance to us. We're like, these are our guys. That's where it came from.
Of course.
But that social structure will always try to tell us what it is. But we have to be strong in what it is to us first.
Yeah, that's a word right there.
Yeah,
that is a word right there. But yeah, one more quick thing, because this was specifically around the same time that the Macklemore
with the whole
situation.
Kendrick.
Yeah. And that's the thing, you know, you're saying that, you know, they'll get the credit for it. And when Kendrick made, was that for Good Kid, Mad City? Or was it for, I think it was Good Kid, Mad City. Whichever one it was.
Yeah. Might have been, it had to be Good Kid.
Yeah, it was Good Kid, Mad City, because he won a bunch of stuff for Butterfly. But anyway, I mean, this guy Macklemore comes from out of nowhere. And I mean, Macklemore was talented, but Kendrick Lamar completely shifted the culture with that album. And it was telling such an impactful story. And for it to not even get awarded for anything? Come on.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Last thing we're going to get to right now is the themes. And first song we're going to talk about with the themes is A Tale of Two Cities. Now, I know that's one of your favorite songs.
Yeah, for sure. So just a little backstory on this song. When I first listened to the album, this was already one of my favorites. You know, banging beat, obviously a really dope two perspective story that he told as well. But actually, what really took this song over the top for me was a video I had seen on Twitter, like right before he went on tour. I don't know if you remember that.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Just the beat drop, like when he said "Nice watch, run it."
Mm-hmm.
Bro, that video, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to this concert. Like, I have to go see it," because I was like, "This giant, crazy, crazy, crazy." And then I did end up going to see it live, as I mentioned earlier.
Right.
It lived up to all the hype. Like that's one of the best like live songs I think I've seen. And J. Cole in general was one of the best live performers in hip hop
Facts.
I've seen.
So, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
I can definitely concur. With the Tale of Two Cities, do you feel like, it's saying like two sides to like, good, not even good or bad, but like, having some type of gaining something in somebody who doesn't have the same opportunities? Or like, how did you view it?
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. So I guess, it kind of ties back into 03 Adolescence a little bit as well. It's talking about, trying to go get rich or whatever. Just those people that are out there just trying to get something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, got to get to it.
Right.
Obviously through the street life or whatever. So I think it ties directly into that theme that he was referring to in 03 Adolescence, whether it's people that they really want to be living this lifestyle or not. Yeah, that's kind of what I pulled from that.
My favorite line from that song is even if you let them kill your dreams, it'll haunt you.
Yeah, the closing line.
Yeah, that one really hit home for me.
That is a hard line.
Yeah, I feel like also with that line, do you feel like what's the word? I'm saying with that line, do you feel like there are moments where you shouldn't hold back or like you should like really push forward?
Just in life in general? Or?
Yeah.
That's kind of a slippery slope, especially talking about directly what he's discussing. My thing is, yes, that's difficult to answer. Okay, so in reference to what he's talking about, obviously through the street life or whatever, I get it. Mm-hmm. I get why people don't hold back on stuff like that, and I just kind of try to push people towards going after it in general.
Right. I was saying more like, I'm talking about not like the streets. So I'm saying like actually something you want to like pursue.
Got you. Well, yeah. Well, in that case, you absolutely should always you can't stop.
Yeah.
For what you're trying to do. It's not always easy to maintain what you're doing, but you have to keep pushing towards exactly what you're trying to reach.
I think that even ties into the Sancho Pay song. Mm-hmm. Because with Sancho Pay, it's like you just want to get away. You're taking that leap of faith. You're doing all of those things. And that was something that really like stuck out to me. I mean, that's something I'm currently even thinking about. But like, when do you feel like it is the right time to move somewhere new or like, start that new chapter? Like, when do you know it's the right time?
So I'm actually kind of in that situation right now myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've really lived in the same area my entire life, which is over 20 years now. And it's kind of something that you battle back and forth with. Because personally, I think I was telling you about this a few days ago. I want to be able to lay my roots here.
Right.
In the work that I want to do. I want to be able to build myself up here, but it's also like I want to be able to expand outside of that. And can I still maintain that same type of relationship with this area when I move on?
Right.
Or if I move on, which I do plan to at one point. But that's just kind of something I think about a lot because that's not an easy thing to maintain. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. It's just I think I'm trying to find that, maybe I wouldn't even say balance because it'll never be balance. But in the sense of like moments where I do explore and take the time to really see different places, do different things, push my comfort zone. I think there's periods where I'm like, all right, from these 2 years, I'm gonna do that. And then, all right, after those 2 years, I'm gonna come back. And then after I get that more stability, let me see what more I can push myself to going somewhere else and trying to do new things. So I think it's that going back and forth and even being flexible with like today's time in the sense of like a lot of things are remote and a lot of things, have shifted after the pandemic.
Of course.
It's like, okay, I can be a little more flexible on my location and where I'm at and still be able to do the things maybe if I was home with. So I can still maybe do a video or so at home and then, do a bunch of videos at home and then for a month go somewhere and then just edit it while I'm there type of thing.
Gotcha.
So it's just like finding that that right threshold of like, okay, I'm here. Now I can go to another spot type of thing.
Gotcha. So kind of just expanded on that a little bit. Do you kind of have that same type of fear that I have, just kind of laying your roots here? And I guess once you move on, you think people are going to kind of drift away from you? You think you'll still be able to maintain that balance, that relationship? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of rappers kind of deal with personally.
Yeah, I think it definitely is something that I can be worried about. But I feel like the people who I'm like really close to, the people who really bang with me, and the people who are really on my team, on my side, they'll always be there regardless if I'm in a different location or if I'm moving somewhere. Like we'll always stay in touch. Like if we only rapping with each other because we here, how solid are we?
I feel you.
So I think that's probably my main thing. That's how like I kind of like take my time. That's how I think about it, how I approach the situation.
I understand.
But I definitely do feel like, maybe not seeing like my family as much or, not being able to like just physically be in person with them all the time. Yeah, that definitely
makes a difference.
Yeah, that definitely affects me.
Yeah. But
I think that even ties into Love Yours.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely ties directly into that. And personally, that I've said this for like the last 3-4 songs, but that's another one of my favorites on there.
Whole album.
Yeah. It's a great album. There's just no way around it. But so Love Yours specifically, that was actually another song that kind of grew on me over time.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought it was a bad song or anything, but I feel like as time progressed, it started to mean a lot more to me.
Same.
Yeah. And because I guess this was 2014. So I was still in high school. And anybody that knows me from high school, I was just really, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to go. And, just had a lot of self-confidence issues, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I guess at the time, the song was just like, okay, cool. But then once I started to see myself progress a little bit more, and I feel like almost unconsciously, I took some of the lessons that he was saying in the song, just straight up loving yourself, just appreciating yourself for what you are. There's some things that you're not going to be able to do. There's some things that you will be able to do. But at the end of the day, you have to love yourself.
Yeah. And I think that goes into being in the moment. It's not like diving in, not relishing in the past or looking too far into the future. Just like who you are right now, what you got around you, and building and being in the present. I think that's really what it was.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
That's what I took out of it for Love Yours. And also just appreciating the people who really value you and taking the time to even say that to them.
Right.
I think that was really important too.
Yeah, and that ties back to what you were discussing in the previous song. Just appreciating those people that are really there for you. Because, like you said, regardless of where you go, those people are gonna love you for who you are.
Right.
And can't do that, then I guess we shouldn't be close anyway.
Right.
It's just no reason.
Yeah, it's just, drawing your line on the sand. And I think a lot of people do struggle with that, because you still want to do what's best for you, but that journey of doing stuff on your own can be really scary.
Yeah, that is very true. So yeah, this was definitely one of my favorites. And I think this song in general, it really hit a lot of people home. Because I keep referencing back to, his shows. But I mean, those shows are just,
they're intimate.
Yeah. And the fact that he's performing in front of like arenas and, stuff like, large.
No, yeah, he sell out arenas.
Yeah. To still feel like it's like only 5-6 people in there, like a little hole in the wall club. Like that's how it feels on a full stage. That's not easy to do. And I don't think anyone else that I've seen that's that big of an artist can still connect with all of his fans that type of way.
Yeah, it's the relatability.
Yeah.
I think also it reminds me almost like kind of like a stand-up, like a comedian type thing. Because like when he's talking, he's able to draw from the crowd. Like when I saw him,
right.
He was like, oh, when he was in the DC, he said, yeah, Upper Marlboro, I know about that.
Yeah.
He said, I used to pass through the way.
Right.
Like, he knows those things. Like, and there's certain parts where he waits to hit. Like, this will hit right here. Like, you can tell he practiced it.
Exactly.
Like when he another part, he was like, manifestation. Right. He's like an SAT word. I'm gonna start saying that. Like it's that relatability and he understands himself and he understands that the crowd relates to that, to his, just his being himself, being the introvert, but still being to explore the world, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I never really thought about that, but it does kind of feel a little bit like a stand-up, comedy show. And I thought it was, last thing I said, I thought it was real funny. One of the shows I went to, he was just talking about, just kind of being in this area. He's like, this one guy who's like aspiring rapper. He's like, oh yeah, I'm from DC. Come to find out he's only from Maryland. It's like, yeah, that sounds like something that somebody from around here would say. It's like, nah, bro, you're from Maryland. There's nothing wrong with being from Maryland. Like,
right.
You're from PG County, like, that's where you're from.
Yeah.
Like, just claim where you're from and keep it moving. But it was just funny the way he knew that's kind of how people be.
Yeah. And I mean, that was even, I think he probably felt that because that's kind of like even how this album was about, embracing Fayetteville.
Exactly.
It's not a LA or a New York. He did those. He went to that big town, big city. But, he came from that small town and, just still, it was the story. But then going back to the small town, realizing he still was able to be himself and still be that superstar wherever he was.
Yeah, his city still loves him regardless of him chasing after his dreams, going to New York. And like I said, that's something that a lot of rappers aren't able to maintain.
Yeah. And not even just rappers, just regular people, whatever career field they want to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that's just a great way to kind of tie up the album.
Facts.
Yeah. Love yours.
We got it here. Another episode of Art Imitates Life. We break down the classic Black movies, albums, and shows and figure out how we can apply those lessons to our life.
Yes, sir.
And we out.
Peace.